Hi, my name is Gerard Season. I'm an artist, and I wrote this book. Welcome to Icons, Windows to the Soul. In this series of videos, I will show you each of my paintings, who they are portraying, and how I made them, hopefully to inspire you to paint masterpieces of anything you are passionate about. In this episode, we will feature Saint Pio of Pietrelcina. Pio was born Francesco Forgione in Pietrelcina near Naples of Italian peasant farmer parents in 1887. At the age of 5, he was said to have already dedicated his life to God. A sickly child, he could converse with Jesus, the Virgin Mary, and his guardian angel, and assumed that everyone could. He took as his religious name Pius or Pio in Italian when he became a friar of the Capuchin order after hearing one of them speak. An offshoot of the Franciscan order, the Capuchins were known to wear beards as well as hoods, known in Italian as cappuccio. Padre Pio was mostly known for bearing the stigmata or wounds of Christ from 1918 to the time of his death 5 decades later. He was equally renowned as a confessor and was said to hear as much as 25,000 confessions a year. That meant nearly 70 confessions a day. A favorite story I heard was of this woman who kept confessing the same sin over and over again. Consequently, he warned her that should she confess it again, he would promptly slap her face. The woman, from fear, went to confess to another priest instead. And as soon as she did, she promptly felt a sharp slap on her face. There were other reports of his bilocation, though he hardly left his monastery at San Giovanni Rotondo in southern Italy. There had been numerous accounts of several pilots during the Second World War about to drop a bomb near the vicinity of Padre Pio's monastery. Suddenly, they each see a monk floating in the air with bloody hands signaling them to stop. Moved by this vision, each pilot ceased and returned from his mission unsuccessfully. When sometimes the bombs would drop, they would safely fall into the forest, always sparing the monastery. The commander general, hearing reports of such a monk, visited the monastery, and while looking through the friars, Padre Pio approached him, put his hands on the man's shoulders, and exclaimed,
"So it is you, the one who wished to do away with all of us."
And although Padre Pio spoke in Italian, the general heard him in English. The general, an American Protestant, fell to his knees and soon converted to Catholicism. Padre Pio was not known to be a gentle soul, and in fact was known for his temper, most probably righteous anger. Of poor health, he suffered both physical and spiritual difficulties his whole life. He was also said to physically grapple with the devil quite a number of times. Often his room would be in disarray and he would be found with bruises and marks thrown about the room, but with a pillow under his head. He would later share that the Virgin Mary always made sure to put it there. In 1968, Padre Pio collapsed after celebrating Mass. He never recovered and soon after entered the next life. He was declared a saint in 2002 when his body was exhumed 40 years after his death. It was only partially corrupt. A lifelike silicone mask was made and his mortal remains are now visible for veneration at San Giovanni Rotondo. He is the patron saint of civil defense workers. Saint Pio of Pietrelcina's feast day is September 23. Saint Pio of Pietrelcina is the second in the series of 33 paintings. My mom and her family were blessed to have met him. He was no different from us in human frailties and weaknesses, but that didn't stop him from becoming a saint. We are all called to be saints, in spite of our weaknesses. Our weaknesses should never be hindrances to our own piety. Many people may be surprised that I too have a terrible temper. Many artists, perhaps because we are so passionate with what we do, have such a temper. This was the first painting I completed and set the bar to the general look of the series. When the first paintings were in various stages, I had yet to decide if they were to look rough, half-finished, stylized, or generally realistic. If you look at the photo progression, I could have stopped at any stage and considered the work finished. This painting already looked like Padre Pio from sketch to finished piece. It is really up to the individual artist to determine when the work is considered finished. Flesh tone is easily achieved using oils by simply mixing titanium white and burnt sienna. For sunken features such as eye sockets, simply increase the burnt sienna. For an even darker tone, add burnt umber. For the blush tones, add deep cadmium red. The human face actually reflects a whole rainbow of colors. These just happen to be my chosen palette of colors, and these can vary from artist to artist. Some even put a green undertone. Some include colors as yellow, orange, purple, or even blue. It's really a matter of personal preference. Many painters like to place their colors at the same exact spot on their palette to develop an automatic reflex of picking up paint without looking. Personally, I place the paint on the palette where I would fancy at the moment. I find more spontaneity this way, by not being restricted by the order of the previous session. I use a disposable paper palette where I just tear off the sheets and throw away the mess, saving me from tedious cleaning. I decided to give this painting a realistic finish, but with a slight airbrushed look to it. As I went on with the rest of the paintings, my technique evolved and improved. I later went back to this first completed one and had to rework it so it would match the rest. In the end, it is still the eyes, the windows to the soul, that speak to the viewer. Padre Pio's eyes are far from the lovely ones that would define my female subjects in the future. But male or female, the right touch of eyelashes is what makes them lifelike and can both soften or harden the expression. Padre Pio's reflect both his stern authority and his compassion. The thick eyebrows and facial hair also enhance the masculinity. From the initial drawing, the beard was already present. For later works, I found it more effective to start with a bare face, then add the hair strand by strand. For future subjects such as Francis and Ignatius, putting the beard in the beginning proved to be overpowering and tended to obscure the structure of the face. In hindsight, you can achieve a more pleasing likeness if you perfect the underlying face, and then add the facial hair later. Padre Pio's beard has an undercoat of gray, and then I added strands of white on top. When I first started showing my paintings on my phone, many were quick to identify Padre Pio, but not if you said he looked like the late actor Sean Connery. For those who think so, may I state that it is the other way around? Padre Pio does not look like Sean Connery, but rather, as Sean Connery grew older and grew a beard, he also began to look like Padre Pio. Nearly any older man with a broad forehead, thick eyebrows, and a beard, in fact, very much bears the likeness of Padre Pio. I hope this inspires you to paint your own masterpieces of anything you are passionate about. In the next episode, we will feature Saint Bernadette Soubirous. If you would like a copy of this book, Icons Windows to the Soul, there are some signed copies on Shopee. Please like this video and subscribe. It only takes a few seconds. And please like me on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Thank you for watching. This is Gerard Season in Icons Windows to the Soul. Hope to see you next time.